Welcome to All About Craven, CTV10's newest interactive live show that focuses on the communities, the people, and the events in Craven County. Now welcome today's host, Steve Tyson.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well this morning and had a wonderful weekend. I know that I had a lot going on this weekend, Friday, starting with Friday, and I'll let General Braaten tell you about that because he was the MC of an annual event, nonprofit that we have here in town, a wonderful organization. And I have been to, I don't know how many of these times. How long have you been doing this?
That was the 15th.
Okay, I've been to most of them. I can't tell you exactly how many I've been to. And they've had some really awesome, I guess, speakers, actors even. I think Bill Hand has done some acting in some. And but I don't know why. I can't really say why, but I just enjoyed this one probably as much or more than any I've ever attended. And I'll let you tell the folks a little bit about the bio of the speaker that you had this year. And so let's go.
I'm on?
Okay. You're on.
We invited Colonel Michael Huber, who is a retired Marine now. He went through the Naval Academy, and then he had a distinguished service as an AV-8B pilot, was assigned to the State Department for a while, was assigned to be in charge of the F-35 program when it was just getting rolling. And then, luckily, he was transferred down to Cherry Point, and he became the CO of Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. So he knew a lot of the requirements that they had worked on with the plane. The new fencing that had to go in, getting ready for the hangars, upgrading the utilities, all of those kinds of things. So he worked really hard on that and did it. And so he told the story kind of from the start. But probably the most interesting for the people who hadn't been real close to the military was his time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and some of the inner workings of how you have an assault and somebody goes down and they have to get recovered, and where you drop bombs and how you pull all this together, which is really very clever. Yeah,
the logistics is amazing. When you're launching planes off a carrier, they've got to be coordinated with people on the ground, and I mean, it is really something else.
And
but,
and
his, I know that you mentioned that when you originally called him, he said, why would you want me? I'm just a, garden variety Marine. I've done nothing exceptional, and his
that's what the real people
his
say.
Call name, his
call sign.
Call sign was
words.
And that
because
meant to be a joke because they say he never
he doesn't talk.
Doesn't like to talk.
People are always saying, well, aren't you going to say something? No. I mean, he's just quiet as can be. So he didn't want, and we had talked for quite a while before he went on over the last month or two. And he said, well, how long do I have? And I said, well, about 30 minutes is a good amount. That way people won't get. And he said, okay. And then that night he arrived. He said, well, I'm going to stick to his script because if I don't, I'll talk too much. And I said, you've never talked too much. But he stuck pretty much to his script. But it was a great story. And the neat thing for the community is that he and his wife purchased a home, and it's on Pollock Street. And they used it initially while he was still on the base as a bed and breakfast type. Now they live in it. They've got 5 kids. 2 of them were there. They were 16-year-old twins, his youngest,
Wow.
and one of them ran the slideshow for him. And he just had. It was a really neat night, and it was a great crowd. And one of the things I liked the most was we had 37 young Marines from the Single Marine program that the base had rounded up and said, you guys ought to hear this and see it. And we use the Single Marines in this area a lot. Triumph Palace calls them, hey, we've got a cleanup, we're going to do this, or we've got a litter pickup, we're going to do that. But this time, all they had to do is come over there and sit down and have a great meal because Smoke was the caterer, the Flame.
He never misses.
He always does a good job.
And then they just got to listen to a great story about things they're interested in because some of them are AV-8B mechanics, which is an aircraft fading out like my old Frog faded out, and the F-35 will replace it. But they're they're interested in that sort. So it was just a neat night.
And then after he retired, he's still in aviation.
Yeah.
He is now a pilot for American.
Flying for American in A320.
He stayed right here. And another interesting thing, he was stationed out of his 28 years, is that right? 14 of them were in Havelock or at
right
Cherry
Cherry
Point.
Point. Yep.
So that's a pretty fascinating career.
Yeah.
And that he would pick this area to stay.
A lot of Marines do, don't
Kind of
they?
like this
Yep,
guy,
yep.
kind of like Tom.
Yeah,
Stick
thankfully.
around. We'll be right back.
The lead in for
All
the
right,
guest.
we're back, and I've got to ask Tom a question that's been picking at me all day, and that is, why are you wearing that shirt, Tom, with all the stars and?
Well, in stripes and red, white, and blue. I can't imagine
Let
why.
me guess. Yeah.
People need to get off of their rear ends and go vote. I went last week. I went one day, and then Susan went later in the day, and I walked right in at the county admin building. I mean, there wasn't one person in front of me. She had two in front of her. Where are people? They need to vote.
Yeah, they really need to get out. And I have to admit, I haven't yet, but you know, I have not missed a vote in I don't know how many decades. But
Exactly.
Anyhow, we have a guest with us today, and he is running for office. He's actually holding an office now with the city of New Bern. He serves as one of their aldermen or commissioners or whatever you call yourself.
I think they're aldermen here. Yeah, commissioners
Some
in Havelock.
municipalities refer to themselves as commissioners, which they can do that. So, Bob Brinson, thanks for coming on today.
Great.
I know you've been busy, and it's only going to get busier as we get closer to Election Day. So, you've been out visiting some of the. And by the way, he's running in a 3-county race.
Yes.
It's Craven County, all of Craven, all of Lenore,
Yes.
and all of Beaufort. So that's a lot of territory
state
to cover,
senate.
isn't it?
It is a lot of territory. It's kind of neat, though, being in Craven because you're a little more centrally located. It's about an hour and a half to the west end of Lenore and about an hour and a half out to the east end of Beaufort County. But yeah, been out and about many places and trying to meet as many people as I can. And just by way of introduction, I'm a New Bern native, grew up in Craven County, and then went to West Point, spent 28 years active Army as a helicopter pilot, a logistician, and an inspector general, and then decided to come back home and just want to continue to serve. And that's kind of how I look at a elected official as being a public servant and serving the people, doing what's best for their interests and serving them in their Christian, constitutional, and rural values for that matter. And so the alderman job, I looked at it as a neighbor serving neighbors, a lot closer neighbors. But as a senator, I want to do the same thing. I mean, these are 3 rural counties where relationships matter and people matter. And again, it's just a neighbor serving neighbors up in Raleigh.
He picked a weird color green, but we'll forgive him for that, won't we?
We shall.
Yeah.
We shall. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's been nice getting to know you a little bit over the last several years because Bob has been active in tons of things in our community, and then stepping up being an alderman and writing articles in the newspaper that they actually print when it comes out. It's all, but it just shows that you care,
Yeah.
which is a big deal.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've been involved in both the Republican Party, former chairman, former volunteer coordinator, former precinct organizer, and then being involved in many of our veterans organizations.
Yep.
American Legion, where I was the judge advocate, VFW 2514, and then the Craven County Veterans Council, where I was the treasurer for a time, and then the vice chairman, and just getting involved in our communities and trying to get to know people and how best to serve them.
Well, you're kind of like Representative Tyson. You want to hear from the people to say, what is it that you need that I can help with,
Right.
and then you're going to go up a step from being in the city, send you up to Raleigh, and then you can do even more up there. And with the two of you working, it means that we'll own the House and the Senate. I mean, well, maybe not
Well, I
quite
wouldn't go
own.
that far. I would not
But
go that far.
but it's great
but,
combination when
certainly
you get
we'll
the
have,
yeah.
two people that
Yeah.
are going to be serious advocates for
As you
Eastern North
face to
Carolina.
face with people, and you are obviously, what is a major concern? Top one, top two, top three?
Well, I tell you, the biggest feedback that I have gotten is our southern border not being closed, being open, basically. But the question becomes, it's like, well, hey, we're not a border state. Well, in reality, we
every
are.
state's a border state
Every
now.
state's a
Yeah.
border state,
Yeah.
and so the 10 million illegals coming across are going somewhere. And many of them are coming to North Carolina, bringing criminals with them, bringing drugs with them. And so the issue is, and kind of in the words of Sheriff Chip Hughes, we need to make it so uncomfortable for them to live in the state of North Carolina that they go somewhere else until the federal government closes the southern border. And
How
so,
can Raleigh do that?
Well, they're a sanctuary city, number one.
Yeah.
I think Charlotte, some of the bigger municipalities are sanctuary
Sure,
cities. So
sure.
if they arrest an illegal, they're not
Nothing.
going to notify ICE.
Right.
And really, that's what happened up in New York City,
Absolutely.
evidently, with this illegal that killed that young girl that was, going out for a little jog.
Nursing
And
student.
he had been
Yeah.
arrested earlier
Yeah.
for,
Let go.
I can't remember the charge up in New York City, and of course they just arrested him and no bail, let him out.
Right.
So had they not taken a position of not notifying ICE, and this
Well-
young lady might be alive today.
What's
would
a
be
step
alive.
to make it uncomfortable that Sheriff Hughes wants to do, and you want to do, and we all want to do?
well, there's a couple of things. I mean, honestly, the best thing you can do is elect a Republican Attorney General to enforce the laws. Like we have laws against sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
Some of the other things are you can prevent them from getting driver's licenses. You can prevent them from getting registering vehicles. We have e-verify laws on the books where our businesses are required to verify citizenship status before giving them jobs. But there are industries and sectors in the state of North Carolina that aren't doing that. And so really, I think we need to enact some significant penalties for not following the law and then actually enforcing them.
And you hear about that all the time when you're out and about.
I
then.
do, yes, I have.
Good.
That's the number one issue. The second issue really is our schools and trying to give our kids a good education without being indoctrinated. The General Assembly last session passed the Parents' Bill of Rights. Who knew 10 years ago we needed a Parents' Bill of Rights to
point.
keep parents involved in schools because they are getting pushed out. But there are now counties, boards of education, that are not implementing that, or refusing to implement it. We don't have that problem here in Craven County, but we have those problems in some of the more liberal districts. And so the thing that the General Assembly can do is continue to expand opportunity scholarships so that parents can then take their kids out of those schools and put them into either charter or private schools that better align with their values. And again, it goes back to we've got to enforce a lot of the laws we have, but as far as the General Assembly goes, there needs to be some penalties going to enforce them.
I'll give it over, but to your point, 5 years ago, even having these conversations,
Right.
unfathomable almost. And
Right.
here we are. Here's the mess we're in.
Yeah, and then I was having that conversation, and actually somebody came up to me and said, hey, we've got a Parents' Bill of Rights now. What about a Teacher's Bill of Rights? What about us? And so that's absolutely the discussion I'm going to have to figure out how to
That's a
protect
good
our
point.
teachers as well.
Yeah.
Good point.
And what boils down to, you're right, we need a good Attorney General to enforce it.
Yes.
And a governor, and so that we're not going to have the two top dogs in the state go against what the people have already voted, like voter ID.
Right.
And then they say, no, we don't want to have, people have voted as part of the Constitution, so.
Maybe we should work together on a bill, and a lot of times you'll have what's called companion bills, identical bills in the Senate or House, whichever one can make it through the process the quickest, may get passed on eliminating these in schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would be a huge step, I think. But
Yeah. I mean, they are a distraction, with both cyberbullying and being a distraction to actually paying attention in the class. The kids are there to learn, and so we need to help them learn.
Let them.
charter schools.
Let them learn.
I like the idea of a teacher's Bill of Rights.
I do too.
And let's let the teachers teach.
Yeah.
And let the kids really use their imaginations and think. I mean, we were talking at Friday night at the summer camp we do. The kids ask questions. We don't give them the answers. We rephrase their question in another way, which means they need to work with their compadres in the class or in their small group and work harder. So they like to get their hands in there and get dirty instead of sitting around talking about sex changes or stuff. They don't need to know that. They need to know that if you work hard, you get ahead.
Yeah, and get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, rather than all of these social issues.
It's amazing, isn't it, that some folks would want to get away from those basics. I still can't get my arms around that.
Yeah, I don't
What's
understand.
anybody thinking who has a child or a grandchild? I mean,
What does your wife think? We want people that
Yeah.
are knowledgeable.
my wife was
Education all her life.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's infuriated by all of the stuff going on. She's a great educator and wants to get back to what you just said. Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, we're back, and we have another guest. Bob, can you scan? Oh, he's not in person, but he is actually on the telephone with us. We have Senator Jim Perry, and Jim represents the district that Bob is running for now. So, Senator, thanks for calling in, and I know you're a busy guy. I keep up with you when I'm up in Raleigh and talking to some of my former colleagues that were in the House and now in the Senate, and they tell me how busy you are and still remain right now, even though you're not seeking re-election, that you're going to run through the tape at the finish line, and we're going to get some stuff done in this short session, which I hope will be short. Are you hearing any rumors about how short the short session may actually be?
I am, and first of all, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate you guys giving me a few moments this morning. I think we all hope that the short session lives up to its name for the first time in a number of years. It seems to be the general consensus among House members and Senate members that I've talked to, that everyone hopes to get out of there quickly to do the business and get home. These marathon sessions are taking a toll on everyone. I certainly have some things that I want to finish that we've had on the stove cooking for a while, and some things you and I have been working on. So we want to do everything we can to close up on existing efforts and get everyone home to focus on the general election.
Okay, well, we have in here with us also Bob Brinson, so I know that you're supporting Bob. I believe that's fair to say, as well as I am, and Tom Braaten and Phil Knight, all of us here today, because we've known Bob for some time and understand how, sharp a guy he is, and his dedication to the community. It's dedicated to the Conservative Party, so, we're all behind him, but how's it going over in Lenoir County?
I think that Bob will be very pleased with the reception that he receives at the ballot box in Lenoir County. I know that he has my unquestioned support. All of my Republican county commissioners over here in support. My sheriff is in support. They've done so very publicly. I think that he will enjoy election night in Lenoir County.
Well, he's got some big boots to fill when he gets elected, I can tell you that, because you were a dynamo up in the Senate, and for some reason I don't think that we've seen the last of Senator Perry in the political arena, but we won't talk about that today. Anyhow, I think Bob had a question or a comment.
Well, I certainly appreciate the endorsements and the efforts. I've had a great reception in Lenoir County everywhere I go, and greatly appreciate that. and was just wondering, a couple of issues that are coming up in the short session that you're working on that probably a few of us need to know about.
Sure. So first, some things of local interest. Then I'll do some, bigger picture items. Things of local interest for us are efforts to continue to support FRC East and the air station. The military is the second largest driver of our economy in the state behind agriculture. Those two things are certainly close to our heart here in the East, and we've had some requests to tweak some legislation that could really be helpful in that sector, so we'll continue to work on that. Additionally, we've had issues with the North Carolina Railroad, as a lot of folks in Craven County are aware of. Representative Tyson and I have had multiple conversations with the railroad. In fact, I've got some follow-up today on different topics. It is just a crazy structure to have a railroad wholly owned by the taxpayers of North Carolina, yet operate as a private entity. Our intention is not to go back and fix 70 years of problems, but it's certainly to make sure that going forward, we're not at odds with citizens, and we want to make sure that they're doing business fairly. And today, it doesn't seem that they are. So we've got additional cleanup efforts going on with that. That's something that I've focused my lift on. I'll also say that Representative Tyson has been spending a great deal of time regarding education, economic development down in Craven County, and he's been pushing for some things that I hope we can get across the finish line very soon. But I won't let the cat out of the bag or steal his thunder on anything. I just know he's spent just countless hours working on things that I think citizens can be very happy about down in Craven County. On a big picture basis, we still have some cleanup regarding tax code, and as chair of finance is something that I stay involved with on the Senate side. We've got some conforming changes that we need to make. We've got some very boring things for pass-through entities, but again, it's all more protections for taxpayers and things to ensure we stay on continued good footing here in the state. I think the short session will be largely uneventful. I don't anticipate any new crazy topics coming up. We don't anticipate a great deal of new spending, but a lot of that depends on how the forecast comes in and the way our cash receipts look going into the end of the year. So we'll be in a wait and see game.
Senator, have you seen the latest, revenue reports that have come in? I think I saw some data about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was kind of right on track of what the predictions were. Since I've been up there since 2020, we've always, pretty much exceeded revenue forecasts, sometimes by quite a bit. But right now, go ahead.
Yeah, we have, in spite of, anytime we put a tax cut forward, we've always heard from our colleagues on the left and the governor's budget office that we're going to experience calamity in North Carolina. We're going to have a catastrophic shortfall. And, frankly, that's never happened. At some point in the future, we will see a revenue cycle retraction. That is what happens with business cycles. We will see a recession at some point, but I don't know when that is. You don't know when that is. I do think that we are poised to weather a storm with our state, with our cash reserves. I do anticipate we'll likely see another overage, probably late April, early May, before we have an official number from the state on what receipts are. Typically, it's after those, those tax receipts come in April.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your calling in and giving us some good information, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Or are you going to be in New Bern tomorrow?
I'm going to see you tomorrow afternoon, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, good deal. And but let me ask you before we go off, what words of advice would you give to Bob Brinson when he takes over in November, or actually next January?
I think what Bob already knows is that no one does anything in the General Assembly without being able to work with other people. You don't do anything by yourself. So it's important to build some relationships, get to know people, understand what it is they feel they need for their district, what you think you need, and find ways to work together. That's the only way that you accomplish anything in a legislative body like ours.
All righty. Well, listen, I appreciate you calling in. And let's see, early voting. We're going to just, Tom, let me turn this over to Tom real quick. Go ahead, Tom.
So we were talking before the show started about how the media seems to have been focused on South Carolina and sort of ignored us, because before that they were saying this is a battleground state and we really get to, we're going to watch them very closely. And it seems like our numbers for early voting are a little lower than we would like them to be. How's Lenoir County doing?
It's also a little soft. I want to remind everyone that this is a fantastic opportunity to get in, save some time, cast your ballot. You never know what's going to happen in the future. Turnout always is the most important thing in any election. And I would encourage everyone to get out, take advantage of early voting. Make sure you get in and cast your ballot in a primary. You know, that's typically a tougher sell for us, but it is very important. So I'd ask for everyone to get out and make your vote count.
All righty.
I think the glitch with AT&T last week when they were just almost down everywhere, was a pretty good hint that folks should not wait till the very last minute, because if that happens and everybody's out of communication, then how do you vote?
That's right. And we are trending very well right now with the unaffiliated vote. I saw in the Senate district about 80% of unaffiliateds are choosing Republican ballots.
Oh, wow.
And of course, women are leading men in
always
voting in the district. It's about 52%, a little higher than that in Lenoir. So we need to make sure that everyone gets out and votes.
All righty. Once again, Senator, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Senator Jim Perry.
He's really done some good work for us. And people just don't, I don't think they focus on it because they don't see him. He doesn't live right here. He's done some great work.
I love the explanation business-wise on you cut taxes. Armageddon, according to the left. It doesn't happen.
It's not only not happened, but we've plugged in, since I've been up there, about $4 billion almost. All right, we're back, and well, that was interesting with Senator Perry, and
he's a fine gent.
So anyhow, Bob Brinson running for state senate, same district. District is that three? Right?
It's three now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That includes all of Lenoir, Craven, and Beaufort County. Man, I know you've been on the road a lot. I call Bob on a regular basis, and he's always doing something. You know, with 3 counties, you've got 3 boards of commissioners, umpteen municipalities,
different sheriffs,
all the sheriffs,
yep.
and
3 different sheriffs.
Clubs and all that you have to go to, parades, not to mention. So, could be worse. You could be in Norm Sanderson's district that has, I think, 11 counties or something.
Yeah,
is 11?
It sounds.
And it's so
it's
stretched
large.
out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, I don't know how he covers it all.
Yeah, it's really unreasonable to
probably 6
expect,
hours.
but that's, it's just the way the demographics works. You have to have X amount of people in a Senate district, in a House district, so that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So Bob, what's the plan for the rest of the days until Election Day?
Well, I mean, the rest of the days, early voting's going on. They're open from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then Saturday open 8 to 3, and then they'll won't open again until Tuesday, March 5th. So, working the polls here and there, making phone calls here and there. There are events still every night. I'm somewhere between the 3 counties meeting people, and I like that I get a great reception no matter where I go. People are very receptive to me, my history, my message. And so that's what I got planned this week, and having a lot of people help me. I have been overwhelmed and humbled by the amount of support I'm getting from friends and even people that I don't know that are saying, hey, you're our guy and we want to help you and support you. So
On a sidebar issue, from a broadcaster, your TV spots are very well done.
oh, well, thank you.
I don't know who put them together, but you come across terrifically.
At LCA and Kim
Brill. Kim is
a
she's
pro.
So good at that
She
stuff.
is a pro, and they're just so well done.
And you have a pretty good supporter that lives at your home.
Yes.
I mean, Amy
Yes,
is right
my
there
wife.
beside you, and she's another bright gal also.
She is. I met Amy at West Point. She is a West Point graduate and a 26-year Army veteran.
Yep.
I brag about her because she retired as a colonel. She passed me. I retired, excuse me, as a lieutenant colonel. And her last job, this is kind of where her last job, she was the human resource director for the Army Surgeon General and for 50,000 medical soldiers. And so that was her last job. I'm very proud of her. And yes, she is very supportive. You know, she's the one that holds my hand and gives me a hug when I need it. And when I complain about not getting enough sleep, she tells me, typical Army soldier, hey, you can sleep in March.
Does she pull the colonel rank on you to the lieutenant colonel when you start whining or you're sleeping?
She didn't have to use that, but
She doesn't. The stern words
buck
are
up.
there.
Yeah.
Buck up. It's very good. But
But that's important for the family because as I watch Representative Tyson now try to call him once in a while and say, are you available to do something? He's in Raleigh, or he's back and forth. He's doing
Right.
something, or he's meeting with the Republican Women's Club or the Men's Club, or doing
Right.
something here. I mean, you give up your free time.
Yeah.
You just flat give it up
Well,
for whatever number
I'm-
of years.
You know, I'm a pretty busy guy, but not as busy as this guy.
Right.
You're doing the work for
Jim
the
Braaten
whole
is
area,
really
which
He's
is
got 4 or 5 full-time jobs that none of them pay very well either, I don't think. But anyhow, let's talk about early voting again, because I can't emphasize it enough. You know, the legislature put in a lot of money and a lot of rules and regulations. The local board of elections, they have to have a lot of training. They're working their tails off to for this early voting stuff. It's a lot of work put in by a lot of different people, and there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't vote. And there's really no reason why you shouldn't vote early. In matter of fact, you should vote early because it's usually so much easier.
it is.
Photo
There's
ID.
none of the polling places really have had any lines that I'm aware of, Bob.
No.
Sure, you've been out to them, but there's a polling place in Havelock, early voting place in Havelock, and the time again during the weekdays.
8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Okay,
And
good gosh.
So they're in, the early voting places are downtown New Bern at the Board of Elections. There is one in Vanceboro Fire Department, the Cove City Fire Department, and the one in Havelock is new, and it is next to the health clinic, the Craven County Health Clinic. That is a temporary one that will be there this year. So not too hard to find, but you know it is in the shopping center. It's not in its normal place.
And the people in the county admin building, election board, it couldn't be nicer. I mean, they're
Right.
pleasant. You go in, and the nice thing is, in case people are kind of saying, "Well, what are they?" They check your photo ID. They do all that, but you wouldn't know if they were Republican or Democrat leaning or independent.
Just the way it should be.
They're just as nice and as
Right.
professional as they can be. I was
I agree
really
with that.
pleased.
They really don't wear their partisan hat
No,
when
they
they're
do.
in
They're
their
great.
work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they
So you
do
can
a
walk
wonderful
in.
job. If you have any questions, most people are probably going to walk in there and they're going to know about Bob Brinson. They're going to know about probably whoever their favorite is for the the governor, or certainly the president, but may not know who to vote for
All the
Secretary
11
of
candidates
State,
for lieutenant
treasurer,
governor.
lieutenant governor, et cetera, et cetera. So I have had quite a few of my friends that have called me up and asked me, and when you're up in Raleigh, you happen to meet some of these, most of these candidates, so you have a little bit of knowledge about them.
Yeah.
And you can go online and print off one of these sample ballots.
That's very
And
important.
that gives you time to then do a little research on the internet by calling people who have better contacts than you. If it's an attorney question, call your attorney and say, hey, what do you know about these guys? If it's something to do with the state election, call somebody who knows that. But spend a little time and then go vote.
Absolutely, and go vote early, because the example I'm using is the special election that was in New York a couple of weeks ago, where many of the Democrats went and early
That's right.
voted, and then
And on election
Republicans
day?
waited on election day. There was a huge snowstorm, and either couldn't or didn't make it to the polls, and it cost them the election.
Yeah,
So
and the
Republican
AT&T thing I mentioned, I mean,
Yeah.
they was just flat down. There were a lot of
Yeah.
people had no internet whatsoever or way of
Right.
doing it. Well, if that happened on election day, then you're going to say, gee, I wish I'd have voted last week.
Right,
So vote this week.
right.
It's up through this Saturday, then it stops until election day.
Till
So
Tuesday, yeah.
Saturday at 3 o'clock, that's it.
Yeah, you could have a northeaster on election day.
You just don't know.
Just
Right.
make it miserable.
Don't know.
out,
That's
right.
so-
And photo ID is such a gift, in my view.
Yeah,
It is.
and you know that
Wonderful.
the law that put that in place happened in 2018, because I've had some folks call me up, and that the law put it on the ballot to be voted on as a constitutional amendment, and
Yeah.
it passed.
It
I think it
passed.
passed
Yeah.
with 65% or
There's a
something like that.
significant margin. Yeah.
Yeah. The left always touts, it's racist, it's racist. And that's such a racist argument, frankly, to even say it's racist.
Georgia's a
you
prime
you
example. They were
insinuate.
yelling racist for photo ID, and there was record
Yeah, that's right.
election 2 years
If
and
you
4
want to
years
cash
ago.
a check,
Yeah.
see if they
I
ask
don't
you
know
for a
what you
photo
can do
ID.
without an ID anymore.
I mean,
I
it's
mean, you can't get on
crazy.
an airplane, you can't get
Go
on a
anywhere.
base, you can't get, your Social Security and all. I don't even think they let you in the Social Security office until you show an ID.
Doctor's office, anywhere you go.
Hospital.
Well, I need one to go back home. Joan wants to see my photo ID,
Well,
Little humor there, Representative.
Yeah, but that's serious.
I'm a little slow.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so bring your ID. There are exceptions to having an ID, and I've caught some flack about that. I said, this law was passed in 2018. Can it be amended and maybe, strengthened? Yeah, it can be, and maybe it will be. But when it was passed in 2018, the legislature, which was majority Republican, but they didn't have a supermajority, so anything they put in there that had, some real teeth into it would have not been vetoed, and they wouldn't have had to override. So did the best they could at the time, and we'll see how this election goes.
And it's a constitutional amendment. It's not just the regular basic law you pass. I mean, it's a real deal. So let's just do it.
Yep.
Well, there were provisions in that law, though, to
Yeah, in the
get
election
free
bill.
IDs.
Yeah.
You can
Sure.
actually get one for free.
No
So-
reason not to have an
Yes.
ID, and as Bob said, that the state will help you get one, and they're free.
Yep.
A sort of an ID that will pass the the test that you need to have to vote. So anyhow, we'll continue talking about early voting, and Senator Bob Brinson, Senator
To be.
elect, we hope, Bob Brinson, after this short commercial break. So stick around.
Well, welcome back. This is it's a busy time in the area. There are a couple events that have just happened, and we've opened up by talking a little bit about the Institute of Aeronautical Technology Gala that was last week, and our candidate Bob Brinson was down there along with Steve Tyson and a bunch of good friends, and we also recognized Linda McDonald for being selected as the Community Fabrics Individual Leadership Award, which is something that was really well deserved. And last week we gathered at the airport because we have a new airline coming to town.
We do. Breeze Airways is now going to fly out of New Bern, and they start Memorial Day, the end of May.
Yeah, I think March 24th is going to be their actual first flight. Yeah,
Yeah,
which-
May 24th, yes.
or May. No,
The tickets went on sale.
They're on sale. Yeah.
Yes,
that's right.
they went on sale, and May 24th is when they'll actually start the
flying.
flights. And the flights are to and from Hartford, Connecticut, and to and from Orlando, Florida. So two very popular destinations. You know, the first question was like, well, what about Hartford? It's like, well, that's kind of an entry into the Northeast that really is within an hour of most of the major cities, and you don't have to deal with those major airports.
And you hop on trains and things there. You can get just about anywhere you want to go. And and they're going to fly a new aircraft.
Yes, the A220. And
Airbus
A220,
which is 130 some odd passengers. So it's going to have some space. It's going to have some legs, because going to Orlando and running up to Hartford will be really nice. So, and they're going to go twice a week. So I hope that we will really use them up. And initially, at least, their fares are $49 one way. $49. I mean, holy moly. So, but then you can save that up, because you will spend it if you go to Orlando. Whatever else you saved, you're going to spend.
Am I naive in saying I'd not heard of Breeze Airways before they're coming to New
I
Bern?
think they're about 5 years old now, but we're the 50th
We're
site
the 50th destination.
that they've been doing it at. And so, I mean, big time. I'm excited. I used to be at the airport, so I think it's really neat that we're going to have another air carrier and go two different ways, one south and one north, and I think people are going to use the heck out of them, and I hope they'll start putting in, and it's got some neat things, like you could cancel your flight up to 15 minutes before the flight with no penalty.
Mercy.
I mean, so they're doing everything they can to make this a low-cost, high-quality airplane, brand new airplanes, but make it nice and comfortable and easy to fly. And the way the terminal is coming along, it's going to be fixed up here and ready in no time. So it's going to be a great chance to get over there and use our airport. Which,
and you're right about Hartford. Really, we've flown in and out of Hartford before, and you're right. It's not crowded. I mean, it's not a mess like so many of it. I mean, it's a great destination for New England. That area, it's great.
Yeah, and what's neat too is Breeze calls their classes of seats nice, nicer, and nicest. Yeah. So, you know, and it kind of gives you the idea of what you're going to get. So
that's great.
But it'll be a nice machine. Mm-hmm. I went to casino night for the United Way. That was good. They had a nice turnout, and it was a fun evening. I don't know. The final, we'll have to get Sander back on here and tell us how the numbers came out. But they had a good crowd, and people had a really neat time. So now back to the important stuff. This is your last week for early voting, up through Saturday at 3 o'clock, and then early voting stops, and that gives them a chance to set up, because I think we have 21 sites.
Here in Craven County, it's 21 sites, and so it goes from 4 early voting sites to all 21 precincts being open.
Yeah, and that is going to be busy time. So you could wait till Tuesday if you want, March the 5th. I'd recommend you just go ahead and do it now. And again, you can get a sample ballot online, and you can ask some people, you can do some research and decide who it is, because when you look at it, there really are 11 candidates on the Republican side for lieutenant governor, and you look on the Democrat side, and you've got similar kind of numbers of big groups of people who are running. So if you're not sure, do a little research, take one of those sample ballots. You can take it in there with you. And then you can look, it's hard to remember all those names. There are a lot of offices, and you say, well, yeah, but they don't really matter to me. They matter.
Yeah, they do.
The Secretary of the Treasury, of Commerce, I mean, the people who are controlling taxes, whether we pay more or whether we argue about it and try to pay less. There are a lot of things going, so local's important.
And I agree with you, Tom and Bob, on early voting, and it seems less this year. Every time we've early voted, I think every time we've had a line, and now not. So
well, and
that's
you
an
can
indicator.
Slip in, right at lunch hour or right after work, it gets a little crowded. But if you can get off during the day, I mean, you can really breeze over there and sit through, and the people are so nice and so professional, and they will, if you have any questions, they will help you through the line. They won't tell you who to vote for because that's not their job.
Right.
But they will help you through, and you'll walk out of there saying, you know, that could have been an independent or Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. They helped me get my vote, and my vote counts, and every vote does count.
Right.
What's your day look like once you're out of here?
Once I'm out of here, I'll probably spend some time at the polls in different polling locations, and then this evening there is another precinct meeting for me to go to speak to voters. That's today, you know, and I haven't even focused on what's tomorrow.
Right.
I
Right.
take it
And
one
3
day at
counties,
a
you got a
time.
lot. When
yeah.
you start talking
Yeah.
the polling places, holy mackerel, you got a
Right,
bunch of places to
right.
go, and it takes time to drive to them.
It does. It does. I think there's about 20 polling places in Beaufort County on election day, and I think there's 18 in Lenore. So it's quite a
And
bit.
21 here, so you got 60
And 21
some,
here. Yeah. Something you did mention when you say go online and get your sample ballot. I'll tell you where to go online. It's ncsbe.gov. What that stands for is North Carolina State Board of Elections .gov, and then go to voter lookup. It'll ask you for your first name and your last name, and then when it pulls up basically your voter registration card, and if you go about halfway down, it'll say sample ballot, and you can click on that sample ballot, and then you can print it out.
Excellent.
That's
really,
where you go.
Yeah, it's really a smart way to do it.
19 seconds.
So this is the big chance for all of us to decide our future, because that's what it matters. I mean, we did this with Representative Tyson before, and he's really helped a lot. Brought in $30-some million last year of efforts to go. Bob's the same way. So let's go out and let's vote.